moving away from fraud that was committed with my songs now, for my next video, to fraud that was created with my blogs. Now, most of the blogs that George Carlin stole from me, I wrote them roughly around in between the period 2004 to 2007. I wrote them actually while I was working at a job very similar to the job I have now, operating a forklift in a warehouse. And back then, I was rather under a lot of pressure. I really was having a hard time paying my rent in my apartment, even working full time. I could just barely manage. I had to take in a roommate. Anyway, eventually I just had to leave the place. I just couldn't afford it anymore. And move in downtown here into a room. Now, when you're under a lot of pressure like that, it tends to bring out the worst in you. And I didn't have, I don't know if I had TV at the time. I had an internet connection, and I would often go online and I would get upset by news stories and things, and then I would fire off an angry blog about it. And also, I was atheist back then. I was a hardcore atheist back before 2007. I was hardcore atheist. I didn't believe in God. I thought religion was a big hoax and a big scam, you know. And when you're like that, when you don't have any God, any faith, it makes you very bitter, I think. It just, you can't seem to find everything is just chaos, and you just look at everything around you as being wrong. And so I'm glad I'm not like that anymore. So what I'm trying to tell you is that when I wrote those blogs that were plagiarized word for word by George Carlin to use in his act, and that HBO and Bill Maher turned around and gave him a job to rip me off on HBO, that those were not comedy sketches. They were statements that I made. They were statements that I made over that period, that 3 or 4 year period, that later on when I sort of had my religious experience in 2007, I had a change of heart, and I erased them because I thought they were kind of mean. I thought they were kind of nasty, and I'm really at heart, I'm not that mean of a person. I'm not that critical. I'm very tolerant of other people, and I just know that I'm happier loving other people than I am at hating them. So, and I've stayed like that. I've managed to stay like that to the present. And when I see those old blogs, it reminds me of that angry atheist that I used to be. And it upsets me because I erased that. I wanted to just erase all that and leave it behind me. I didn't want those thoughts going out influencing people. I didn't want it to encourage people to become atheists. I didn't want people to laugh about this stuff. I took it seriously when I wrote that. And if you take it seriously, then it isn't funny anymore. Then it's actually not very nice. It's an insult. Most of them are very insulting. And I'll just show you what I put up online today. Today is Tuesday, August the 16th. Now at least I have internet at home. I can do this. So I posted my latest. I had to add something onto my last post. It's my newest blog is called Present Mistypings, and you see here that I've added George Carlin's Plagiarism, the whole text of my post from 2015 into that blog at the top, because I stumbled on a video from George Carlin's official video channel that was still trying to make money from this. Now, if you read that post, then you can go back here. I'll show it to you here. Let's take a look and go back See, it's all on the internet. You just have to read. Now, I don't have my little. I usually have my little links at the bottom. This last one I left it off, but we'll go to one from yesterday to the day before, and you'll see what I mean. You can just go down to. If you just go down here to the. Hopefully I can get it on the camera here. Down here to where it says more statements, right? You just go to arguments, right? And you'll see it's all arranged at the top, A to Z. You go to the FEEGOT section and you scroll down through all those. I don't log these statements anymore. It's too much work. But I have logged about a couple thousand of them anyway in this index. And you'll see right here in the G's, almost at the beginning, we have George Carlin's Plagiarism. The blog Leftovers, that was 2015. The description, lengthy list of George Carlin's violations with my web post from 2006 to 2008. Additional comment, posted while my poor mom expired on her hospital bed. That's another reason I don't like seeing it, because it's like having to relive my mother's death every time. It's extremely cruel to do that to me. So, and here it is, Monday, December 7th, 2015, George Carlin's Plagiarism. Now, if you don't want to read it, I'll read it for you, okay? My mom's in the hospital, but I think I was fair to accuse Roger, that's my brother, of interfering with my emails because he was mixed up in fraud with my music. While I want my mom to get feeling better, I would envy her if she died and was released from this evil world. She died. Here are around 30 examples of George Carlin's plagiarism committed with my posts I shared between 1999 and 2007. I cannot immediately recall every last word of his crooked act, but I can at least identify his violations by referencing a specific phrase from each. Perhaps the last one drifts into the realm of peculiar kind of identity theft that would help a fraud feel more like the artist he stole from. Every time he said, I think this and I think that, he was just robbing my words. By the way, I removed most of these statements, as I said earlier, because I thought they were too hostile, too angry. They were just not nice. These are not nice blogs. They're not comedy. They're serious. They're statements. And that's why I erased them. And if he wants to turn around and make comedy out of it, why can't he just do that with his own writing? Why does he have to do it with mine? I don't care if he's dead. His crime is still hurting me now. So here we have in politics, when fascism comes to America, it will be with happy face t-shirts and Nike sneakers. Now in each instance where I give you one of these phrases, the whole everything else that he said was all plagiarized, word for word, from a blog that I shared on Blogger. So that's the first one. A bunch of them are political. The game is rigged, folks, and having the judges in their back pockets, all that. I can't remember it all word for word plagiarized. Get my whole head into this shot. Food shouldn't cost money. Conservative voters from the working class vote against their own interests. Some things I'm conservative about, some things I'm liberal about, that whole discussion. Elections are a charade, the whole discussion. Power does what it wants and now they're just more naked about it, the whole discussion. In religion, I have had a few thoughts. I was atheist at the time, quite militant about it. I feel embarrassed about it now. A loving God wouldn't punish us, but he loves you and he needs money. Word for word, out of my blogs. How the 10 Commandments should be reduced, word for word, out of my blogs. This is not good work. This looks more like the work of an office temp with a bad attitude. Argument against creationism, word for word, out of my blogs. Now, and I talked about people, and as you can see, I was very angry with people back then. I wasn't doing very well. People, boring people, always want to tell you their stupid shit, force you to look at pictures of their family, tell them to keep oversexed adolescent away from younger relatives, etc. All word for word, taken from my blogs. Stupid people, like dumb Americans, for instance, dumb Americans. We got some stupid fuckers right here. Plagiarism. That's plagiarism. Alpha males. The story about what we should do with them, how we should round them up, get them all to beat the shit out of each other in a stadium and shoot the winner in the head. 100% my words. Everything. We're overweight, you know, how we're all stuffing ourselves with food all the time and getting fat. Great lumbering hulks of protoplasm, however I put it. Gullible people. When I said I was the kind of guy who doesn't automatically accept new information, he plagiarized that. And working people and people unemployed, people, for instance, who don't want it in their backyard, right? As you call it, NIMBY, not in my backyard. Well, that was part of my discussion, which he plagiarized. And then, using the example of a nuclear power plant, I'll take a little radiation if it gets me a job, you know. But those are not nice. Those are not nice at all. I was serious when I wrote all that. And I'm ashamed. I'm sorry. I'm actually sorry that I shared it with you. But it wasn't for a laugh. It wasn't a joke. And it's not right to misinterpret my words like that just because a comedian needs to pay his tax bill and doesn't have any material. That should not cost me so much. It shouldn't have to remind me of my mother dying in the hospital. Nobody should be making any money off of that. That's wrong. That's wrong. I can't seem to stop them from taking it down. So for God's sake, if you see this video, will you please shut that George Carlin channel out. Don't go there. Don't let them get paid for my life. It's wrong. Now here we have in business, we have, again, too much bullshit, advertising, you know. Distrustful businessmen who think you want to fuck them in the ass because that's what they would do in your place. Obvious capitalist goals, more for themselves, less for everyone else. Self-interest doesn't interest me. And the cigar-smoking businessman, that little paragraph about how he should, you know, blow it out his ass. Every word of that, again, plagiarized. Every word. Plagiarized. He didn't hack it, he plagiarized it. He plagiarized it. Plagiarism. A crime. He stole my property. Doesn't matter that I erased it. I'm allowed to erase my own work. And if you need it, then you shouldn't pay me for it. You shouldn't go just telling everybody you wrote it. That's wrong. You shouldn't be rewarding crime like that by patronizing his dirty channel. Nobody should be making money from this. It's wrong. Now, let's go into education about how youth should be taught to think for themselves, and then the paragraph about the classroom and the corporate overlords. If that rings any bells, every word of it came from my blog. In the military, at the time we were fighting the Iraq War, bombing campaigns, are you brown? If you're brown, you better get the fuck out of there, we're going to bomb you. My words. You know, about our Nintendo pilots, my words. You know, criticizing the military, criticizing the Air Force. Death, and suicide. What a nice thing for him to make a joke about. I have a friend who hung himself from a ceiling hook. I came home and found his body hanging limp from a ceiling hook. I found his body when I came home from school that night from college. I'll never forget that. I'll never forget how his face looked. He was an artist, like me, and we're sensitive, you know. Some of us just can't handle this life. It's so cruel. But he was really a great guy. Breaks my heart to think about it, and he had children too. Heartbreaking. Absolutely heartbreaking. So, suicide for me is a serious topic. It's not something I joke around about. But of course I don't owe the U.S., the Internal Revenue, millions of dollars like George Carlin, you know. And of course, as long as it wasn't taken from his life, then he can make a joke out of it. But I guarantee you, if those writings came from his own personal experience with suicide, and then he changed his mind and wanted to erase them, he most certainly wouldn't have liked somebody else coming along and making a comedy routine out of it. That's why I'm trying to share this with you. You know, I'm trying to share it with you to save your soul. You know, anyway, suicide, the lecture, the speech about autoerotic asphyxiation, my words, contemplating one's survival of a suicide attempt, I'd have a big fucking hole in my head, my words. When people hear that someone has just died, they always say, I was just talking to him, my words. And the whole discussion, everything he did in the last 2 to 3 years of his life was ripped off out of my blogs. Everything he went up and said in front of crowds on HBO was ripped off out of my blogs. Every word, everything. Everything. Okay? Miscellaneous stuff we have here at the bottom. Gadgets and gizmos. You know, I like the word tits, it's a cute word, you know. Stars with one name. Did I include Bono, you know? Pet peeves versus major psychotic hatreds. Not in my backyard regarding prisons, sorry. An escaped inmate would flee the area. Male pattern baldness, you don't need to shave your head if you're a man, just wait a while, you know. I'm a modern man is my poem. It's not even a statement, it's a poem that he stole. Watching catastrophes on TV, I always want them to get a little worse, which was shared in jest. Ridiculous euphemisms like water landing, where the plane crashes into the ocean. That actually came from when I flew to Europe, and I'll never forget how they briefed us on, you know, what to do in case the plane took a nosedive, and we would have to, in the event of a water landing, you know, water landing? You call that a water landing? Full of shit people, businessmen, clergymen. Eh? No one can hold a candle to a clergyman. Again, I was atheist while I shared that. Except for this audience, people are stupid and boring was my cute little thought. I leave symbols for the symbol-minded, my words. Sledgehammer wit of a rebel versus the impotent rapier of conventional humorists. Well, I've long been a critic, you know, of these mild jokes that aren't funny. I truly hate the funnies because they're just not funny. They have no balls. I've always hated them. So I put it into words one day and then he steals it. Hecklers silenced by expressing death wish against their family. I remember telling people how you better not heckle me because I'll murder you with what I have to say in response. And use the example, hope your child dies in a car fire. And lastly, my supportive comments posted to Olbermann in 2008 for his diatribes against the Bush administration. I was a bit younger back then, a little bit more naive. I don't like MSNBC anymore. I don't like it any more than Fox News now. I think that both of them are just pathetic. How they only want to tell one side. Nobody's neutral enough to give us the truth. So those are all the, it's all here in my Leftovers blog, posted Monday, December the 7th, 2015. And if you visit the George Carlin official channel, the joke is on you. Because that's all plagiarized. And who knows what kind of an effect it's going to have on your soul. Now you might have the convenience of being atheist now, but I guarantee you that when you get older, you're going to start to maybe think you have a soul. You're going to start to at least wish you have one.